Hello and welcome to your Daily Detroit for Tuesday, January 5th, 2020. I'm Jer Stays.
And I am Devon O'Reilly.
On today's show, we're going to highlight a few things to know and places to go around town. But before we get started, a quick thanks to Jennifer. She joined us as a member supporting our work. Thank you very much for helping push the project forward. You can be like Jennifer at patreon.com/dailydetroit. And thank you. All right, let's just get started, Devon. We need to talk about some coronavirus stuff. It, of course, is the story that never seems to go away. It's been around for months, man.
And it will continue to be. It will permeate everything we talk about. And so we might as well get it out there and let's get into it.
For sure. Now, there has been some good news over the last few weeks, Devon, because Michigan has been bucking national trends when it comes to cases and all of that kind of stuff, as there are hospitals across the country that are overwhelmed right now. But we've kind of gotten a handle on it a little bit, as you can see by the data here that I'm sharing. In that area throughout November, we had that indoor dining shut down, some other things. But there are fears as we get past the holiday season that there's going to be a little bit of an uptick. We are averaging under 2,500 cases a day the last 2 days, which it's great news.
I mean, I follow this like a hawk every day. I wait for the new numbers to come out. Comparatively, I know it can seem bleak, but we are doing really well compared to places like California, where my brother lives. And, he's got, horror stories about what's going on there every day. We're actually doing pretty well. And the pause, as it were, the last one that we had, did seem to work. It did bring down the numbers. So I know, controversial as it may be, the numbers did go down. And so we did see some positive returns from that. And I hope we continue to see that. And I hope that leads to, hopefully, a little bit of opportunity to get our bars and restaurants back open in some capacity.
Well, that was something that Governor Gresham Whitmer talked about a couple days ago with a Northern Michigan television station, that was a possibility that they're going to look at these things even before the 15th when the current pause is scheduled to end. But I think everybody's waiting for that holiday situation. What is going to happen? Did people travel? Did it spread between homes? That kind of stuff. And then also there's the impact of that virus strain, which, although we don't have it confirmed as of this recording in Michigan, we're finding it lots of places, and the United States has really bad genomic testing to find it.
Yeah, I mean, we probably have to assume that it's here. I don't know how, again, how big of a difference that makes. Certainly it is something to be wary of, but we'll see. We're right in the early January cusp. People have had their Christmas celebrations, their New Year celebrations. I hope they did them all within their bubble, within their family, within, as tight of a circle as they can. And, again, the way I always look at it is, look, I want to go to the bars and restaurants as much as anyone. I'll put that against anybody. But I understand the only way we can do that is if we get the numbers down. And, if we can do that, and I hope that we do, so hopefully in several days, maybe a week here, we can see some positive news and a pathway forward to be able to open back up in some capacity, whether it's the 50% rule or what have you. But I think that, bars and restaurant owners, small businesses are clamoring for some kind of a guidance or a pathway forward on how they can open back up.
Well, I think for a lot of people, it's the uncertainty, right? Like if we're going to close it down, I almost feel like we should just be clear about what we're doing. I know this piecemeal approach is really hard to plan from a business perspective, but there are so many moving parts. The vaccine rollout has been way slower than people had imagined. The federal government had said we'd get into 20 million doses by this time. We're like 20% of that if we're lucky. Here in Michigan, we've only administered about 128,000 shots, and that's right around a third of the vaccines that we actually have sitting in warehouses right now. So we have not rolled this out quickly.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. There is a great dashboard on the state of Michigan website, and I check it every day again, that you can check, how many doses have been distributed, how many doses have been administered. Really cool trackers. I want to shout that out in the state of Michigan website because they're doing a really good job at least telling you what's happening, whether it's bad or good. They're showing you the data. And so it hasn't been good. I guess my glass half full, approach is at least it's happening. More and more people are getting vaccinated every day. But you're right, Jared. It's not to the level that we were promised in any regard.
For sure. And I wanted to highlight that dashboard really quick. We've highlighted it before with Dr. Paul before, but I figured I would go ahead and bring that bad boy up because I think it's a good thing to highlight. It's loading the data right now. It takes a second. It's a pretty complex thing, but you can see here that you've got the number of vaccines distributed. Actually, there's a few more vaccines in the kitty than I remember seeing the other day.
Yeah, that number has gone up.
And then the doses administered, that's the same. Now, there is a data lag with that. I think that updates in the afternoon. We're recording this at about noon. on Tuesday. So this kind of shows you where we're at. I also kind of love that you can look at the preparedness even down to the city of Detroit here. And it's a really like cool graphic to see like what's happening here, how many doses have been administered, all that kind of stuff. I think that's just really, really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I bookmarked it on my laptop and I check it, all the time because the data is gonna lead the way. We've said that all along. This is how we're gonna get out of this, is following this data. And if it's positive, that's great. If it's lagging, then we need to address that.
Well, and one more thing I wanted to highlight too was that the state of Michigan is distributing about 3.4 million KN95 masks, which those aren't the N95s, and there is a slight difference. One is done by the Chinese. The N95 is actually certified. The KN95 says it's 95% effective with particles. Dr. Paul Thomas, I checked him on background for this one. He linked me to something that showed me that some studies show that the efficacy can vary between 70 and 95 depending on the make and model and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is the KN95 is the only one we really have available on mass.
Absolutely. And also, I know that Wayne County has distributed masks to every municipality in Wayne County in the efforts to get the masks out. And I know Dearborn, for instance, their city leadership has made sure that the masks are literally dropped off and delivered to people's doors to ensure that there's no reason that they can't wear and can't have a mask. Maybe not a KN95, but hey, you know what? At this point, first, let's, everybody should be wearing masks, and, KN95 even better.
Oh, yeah. It's all a step up. I remember the other day I was over at the coffee window that I go to in Milwaukee Junction, the Milwaukee Cafe. Somebody walked by, they were going to work. I've never been asked this before. Hey, man, do you have any masks? And I had some in the car.
I have not been solicited for masks before. That's interesting.
I have been now. And I gave him a stack of 10. And he just literally put one on right away. So I was just like, hey, here you go, and put it on the hood of the car, and he grabbed it. I was like, hey, I had him in the dashboard. That's crazy that that's a thing, but I think it's important mass distribution.
Absolutely. You can never be too prepared. My apartment and my pockets and my jackets are overflowing with masks because you never want to be caught off guard. You always want to have one. And let's be honest, it's not going to change for anytime soon. So, heck, invest in some really cool, good, high quality masks because you're going to have to wear them going forward. And that's just the way it is. I don't even notice it anymore. I was at the grocery store. I forgot I even had one on.
Well, listeners have been sharing with me that their workplaces are actually extending the work at home time. One of our listeners said June. Another one said August. Another one said September. It seems like workplaces are starting to get into that reality that, frankly, it is going to be late summer, early fall until we get to things. And part of that is this disappointing vaccine news.
Yeah, I think that as we had gone into the new year, there'd been kind of a sliding scale of when the business community writ large had been thinking that they were going to be able to come back to, regular office work. And initially in December, you had heard as early as March or April. You had heard on the pessimistic end, September or what have you. I think now that scale, as you said, is probably more June. I'm hearing a lot of, from here on out, we're looking at 6 months before we can get back to regular work schedule. Like you said, possibly even August. You might want to wait through the summer. But we'll see. Again, it's a sliding scale, Jared, because I think there'll be a difference between everybody back to work in the office and normal versus this piecemeal approach that I think a lot of offices might take where, employees come in Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then everybody works from home Friday. I think that you'll start to see around the March, April time, some offices and businesses doing a piecemeal approach to just getting at least a few essential people in the office.
Yeah, and the weather is going to play a huge factor in this, especially when it comes to events, stuff like that. It's going to be a whole lot easier when we get back to that world where we can be outside more often. I think that's going to help keep cases down too.
Absolutely. And I think, again, putting my networking hat on, which is, half of what I do on a daily basis for work, when we have the ability to have small events, under 10, under 25, maybe even under 50 at some point that are outside, when the weather is permitting that, I think you'll start to see a lot of those spring up because I've already heard people saying they're just clamoring for that little bit of networking and they want to do it safely, but they want to do it, whether it's outside with masks, whatever. Now it's just virtually impossible. But I think once you start to see the weather break just a little bit in that spring, March time, we're going to see some little events start to pop up on the radar for networking and things like that.
Well, let's pivot to some very local news because the Detroit City Council race just got quite a spotlight on it in that former Freep, Fox 2 reporter, and current podcaster ML Elrick has formed a candidate committee to run for Detroit City Council. The Pulitzer Prize winner would be one of a number of media people over the years that have tried or gone into public office or working for public officials. Devon, Mike Duggan has hired a number of former journalists for his administration over time. Some of them are still there. Some of them have gone. But that tradition, and you're a history buff too, goes back many decades. One example would be Ray Girardin. He was a former Detroit Times cops reporter who actually became police chief and was police chief during 1967. So this is a long time thing. Detroit loves its media personalities, its colorful characters. There is no doubt that ML Elrick is one of those colorful characters. It looks like he's going to be running in District 4 because he lives in the East English Village area where he's pretty active. That's Andre Spivey's current seat. Do you have any thoughts on that, my man?
Yeah, it's an interesting turn, but I guess, not really surprising. I think you hit it on the head, Jer. Detroit is not really a place for meek politicians. We certainly embrace colorful politicians, colorful characters, outgoing, bombastic characters in our local politics. So that's why we've had a lot of media people, and I think it's an easy transition. If you're in front of the camera, if you're good at speaking, good at writing, good at getting your point across, politics is actually a natural transition. So I would say it's probably even a smart move by ML to get involved, and it'll be interesting to see where he goes with this. I'll be following. I know that District 4, Andre Spivey, he's kind of a mainstay there. He's a child of that district, grew up in that area. He's going to be a tough out. I believe it. I mean, of all the spots on city council, I think Spivey could be the toughest out unless he has some kind of higher political aspirations in the near future. It's going to be a tough race, but it'll be interesting.
Oh, for sure. If Spivey stays in this and isn't going for another slot or something like that, this is not going to be a clear-cut, easy walk for anybody. It'll be an interesting one to watch. I still have some thoughts developing on it. I feel like since I just kind of learned about this, I'm kind of sticking to the facts on it as opposed to any kind of analyst or interpretation. But that east side, and I'll give people an idea of where we're talking about because I just realized, maybe people don't understand what District 4 is. So I'm going to pull that up. That is actually the far east side, and that's going to cover that area of Detroit, like Jefferson Chalmers, where the FCA plant is. Then it stretches all the way up to McNichols, or what I call 6 Mile, Moross, Mac. That is a large area, and there's areas that have seen better days, and then there are areas that are really revitalizing in that area. And that East English area known as Copper Canyon, where a lot of police officers used to live, is a pretty dynamic place.
You look at the demographics, you look at some of the other factors in play in that district. I agree, Jer. I'll definitely wait to give any kind of a stronger opinion until I see what ML's angle is going to be. Like you said, I think by and large, the district has been doing pretty well. I wouldn't say it's been forgotten by any means. Andre's done a good job serving that district. So, I don't know what ML's angle is going to be, but we will see.
Well, moving on, I wanted to get into the idea that Washtenaw County is ending cash bail, which is an interesting one. This is something that a lot of people on the left have been a big fan of. The idea that cash bail is a problem and that it's discriminatory. It's interesting to see a large county prosecutor. Now, Washtenaw County isn't the biggest, but it is one of the big 4, and it has Ann Arbor. And it's an interesting thing to see that actually go into practice. That's something a lot of justice advocates have wanted for a long time.
Eli is a great guy. I knew him back when he was with the city of Detroit. I'm happy to see him over at Washtenaw County now. And I think it's a bold but a good move. I support this. I think that it'll be something that we'll look at and see if this goes well. I can see other prosecutors taking this up.
Yeah, and the thing is about cash bail that I think people don't realize is that it's something that disproportionately does affect people of color and affects poor people. Because if you have money, I think that's one of the things people forget is that the more money you have, the more transgressions and minor crimes, it's more like just a fine to do something versus actual prosecution. Whereas when you're poor and you're not making a lot of money, you're not able to take time off work, all of that kind of stuff, it just kind of gets this cycle going of incarceration and being part of the system that's just so hard to get out of.
Yeah, Jer, I mean, we don't have nearly enough time to get into criminal justice reform and the disparities in the criminal justice system, of which there are too many to even start on. But certainly cash bail is wrong. And I think it's something that it should be looked at. I think this will help. This will help put it on the map. And I hope that other prosecutors take up this same position.
And I will link in the show notes to a previous episode. We actually talked to the Detroit Justice Center. So if you want to spend half an hour on this topic with them, I did. And so we can talk about that. All right. This one is a fun one, Devon. I know that I am excited about it being walking distance from this, but Supino's got a new place.
Yeah, up on the boulevard. It's great to see lots of stuff popping up over there. It's just it's really awesome to see the signs of life. And I'm chomping at the bit because I want to be able to go to these places because I see them popping up, the new signage. So yeah, Supino's is up just Grand Boulevard and Woodward essentially.
Yeah, they're just waiting on inspections, according to a piece from the Metro Times, which is pretty exciting. And then the other thing that I like is the idea of an extended kitchen.
Yes, absolutely. That's awesome. I saw that they were going to incorporate some of the items from La Rondinella, which was an awesome place that they had too briefly over there in their space next to Supino's and Eastern Market. So it sounds like they're going to use some of the dishes from La Rondinella in that, and it's going to be more than just pizza. So it'll be, I think I saw pork shoulder or lamb shoulder, some of the different pasta dishes. It'll be really cool to see what they come up with, and it'll be really a welcome addition to that area.
Well, out to the suburbs, I wanted to highlight that Sterling Heights is setting up a drive-up mobile food pantry with Forgotten Harvest through January. Devon, I know that you know a lot about the work of Forgotten Harvest and how much that they do. They really make a lot of impact.
They do amazing work, and I've been fortunate enough to go visit some of their food pantries, to check out what they're doing, to see the work they do, to contribute to the work they do, and it's really awesome and incredibly needed. So, super supportive of the work Forgotten Harvest does all over the place, and not just Detroit.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that need is throughout the region. People, I think, get this misnomer that poverty stops at the city line. That is not the case at all, especially in a region as geographically spread out as this. This particular thing is going to be at the Sterling Heights Community Center. That is at 4250 Dodge Park Road. It will be each Thursday in January. There will be a car-only drive-up mobile pantry distribution from 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. on, as I said, Thursdays in January. There's going to be meats, dairy, produce, fresh fruit. There is no income test, so there's no income level restrictions. However, they do have an intake form because it's being funded by federal dollars. I wanted to highlight this because I think it's important for people to know that there are resources near them and that need is not something that stops at city borders.
I think that, what you're seeing is, unfortunately, with the pandemic and all the fallout of it, there are people who are now finding themselves in need of places like food pantries who may not have ever had that need previously. And so, appreciate putting the word out about places like that because, again, there's so many people who haven't had to worry about this before who are all of a sudden having to worry about this. And so it's important that they know that there's resources out there in the city and throughout the metropolitan region.
Well, this next story is a fun one. And Devon, you actually got to try a little bit of this. I got a lot of press information on it. Eastern Market Brewing Company has been making a lot of moves. And so I wanted to highlight this Après, which is some sort of thing. It's happening at Eastern Market Brewing Company. It's also happening at the Ferndale project. What are the details on it?
Sure. It's hard to keep a good man about town down. If there's something I can do, I'm going to do it. And Après at EMBC, it's got a nice ring to it. They're doing at both locations, so Eastern Market Brewing in Eastern Market, and then also their Ferndale location, basically kind of embracing the ski lodge atmosphere without the skiing, which I'm not a skier or a snowboarder anyway, so I was happy to see this because essentially what you can do, dress warm, obviously, like you would be hitting the slopes or something similar to that. And you pay $5 for your lift ticket. I'm doing air quotes here. And that gets you 50% off the draft beers during your ticket time there. So it's really cool. And there's a little bit of a difference. So the Eastern Market Brewing in Eastern Market, they have open seating in the alley there. And then they also have igloos. So they have like greenhouse igloo type of structures that you can then rent. So you've got to go online and you got to make reservations and you can get one of their greenhouses. And you get 50% off your beer, nice little heated greenhouse for just you and whoever up to 4 people. And then the Ferndale one has fire pits.
Ooh.
So you can grab your ski ticket, get your half off beer, and then sit around the fire pit. And Eastern Market, they're really bringing it strong with the beers. I have to say, I went. They're known for their hazy IPAs, elephant juice, things like that, juicy IPAs. They're known for that. But they also got some really good strong beers, some stouts and porters will warm you up as well.
I do like me a good stout and porter.
Oh, this is the season for it.
Oh, for sure. And I'm glad and I hope that all of these, I know we've mentioned this before, Devon, but I just hope that all of these kind of experiments and doing different things, I hope this energy continues past the pandemic because these kind of, not just the outdoor spaces, but putting in the effort for these kind of promos, like this is the kind of thing that like adds vibrancy to an area.
I was sitting there, I went with my wife and we were there, just the two of us in the greenhouse. And we were saying, we really hope that this doesn't stop. There's no reason why in next February or next January, why there shouldn't be greenhouses and Après ski lodges and fire pits and, just good business. There was a good amount of people there. There was probably as many people there over a larger space because you could use outside too. You could use all the outside and all the alley. There's probably as many people who were there as would be on a normal day at Eastern Market Brewing. So it was really cool to see. And of course, they're more spread out and social distancing and mask wearing and all that was enforced and everybody did a good job of that. But just really cool to see. And I agree. I hope it continues even post-pandemic.
Well, this final story I am going to highlight is in the suburbs. And it's, Devon, an area that I think is near and dear to both of our hearts. I'm going to actually play some video here because this is the extension of the 494 route serving Beaumont in Troy, which is a pretty big deal when it comes to buses and bus service. This is good news in general because that 494 route actually stretches all the way from the state fairgrounds now to that Beaumont facility in Troy, right near M59. It used to end at the Target at 16 Mile Road. It also adds earlier trips during the week and on Saturdays, adding 4 miles to this route, this 494 to Quinder, and then bringing it within a mile of Rochester, who is not part of SMART, but it's still something that is important. I think it's big news, and it's interesting to see that kind of transit expansion in the suburbs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm for any kind of regional transit expansion, even if it's just a bus route, like you said, bringing that out to Beaumont and Troy is huge. Obviously, a medical center there, those tend to get built up. You look at what they've done in Royal Oak with the Beaumont campus. I was there recently, just at the campus. I picked up some food, and there's all these new restaurants and bars and, businesses, and these Beaumont areas have become their own little mini cities. And so it's really valuable to have the bus route that connects those nodes, and then having it go almost out as far as Rochester. It's really incredible. And it shows that there's a need for regional transit, again, not just in the city of Detroit, but out in northern Oakland County.
Macomb County.
I'm sorry. Macomb County. So even there, you see that there's a need for it. And I just hope that it continues to progress this idea that we need some comprehensive regional transit.
For sure. I would also note that SMART is adding back some of their commuter routes that were taken out due to the pandemic. It seems like they're seeing a little bit of uptick in demand for that. I will put a link to smartbus.org that has all of these changes. And, it's good to see. I think more people will buy onto the idea of transit if they can see more of it around them, if that makes sense.
You have to see it happening around you, and then you kind of have to experience it yourself.
That'll do it for today's show. I'm Jer Stays.
I'm Devon O'Reilly.
And thank you so much for listening to Your Daily Detroit. It has been great to have you. Remember, if you want to support what we're doing, patreon.com/dailydetroit. And thank you. We'll talk tomorrow. Listeners, thank you so much for listening.
Man, there goes it. Almost made it through.
We almost made it. Let's get through the dog. Let's get through the dog thing. We can
All
do
right.
the close.
Winnie.